In 2024, a Volkswagen worker in Wolfsburg got the call no one thought possible. After 87 years without a single factory closure, his plant was done. 6,000 miles east, a Japanese office worker collapsed at his desk. He was 34. His cause of death had its own word, Karoshi, death by overwork. Two countries, two economic miracles, the same collapse. In the next 17 minutes, you'll see how the world's most admired economies destroyed themselves, using the exact same playbook 30 years apart. Japan was the future once. GDP per capita ranked third in the world. Then it fell to 38th. Germany was Europe's engine until it posted back-to-back recessions for the first time since reunification. And this is where it gets personal, because the recipe that killed both miracles, export addiction, demographic denial, leaders who chose power over people, is running right now in the US, the UK, South Korea, and a dozen other countries. This isn't history. This is a warning. Right now, Japan is producing fewer than 700,000 babies a year. That hasn't happened since 1899. Germany's industrial output sits at 90% of 2015 levels, and it's still falling. But these aren't just numbers on a chart. In Japan, 1,304 workers were officially recognized as Karoshi victims last year alone. 89 of them killed themselves. 1 in 5 Japanese workers is classified as at risk, and those are just the cases the government admits to. Take Yuto, 28 years old, junior analyst at a Tokyo consulting firm. He worked 130-hour weeks for 6 months straight before his heart gave out at his desk on a Tuesday morning. His mother found out from a coworker's text message. That's Karoshi. In Germany, a man in Wolfsburg spent 25 years on the VW assembly line, built Golfs, Tiguans, Touaregs. Last November, he learned his wage would be cut 10%, and his job might not survive 2026. Every fifth German worker now earns poverty wages. The job miracle was always a lie. Japan's share of global GDP collapsed from 17.8% to 3.6% in 30 years. Germany just entered its second consecutive year of contraction, unprecedented since the post-war era. How do the two most disciplined, engineered, export-driven economies in history make the exact same mistakes? The answer starts in the rubble of 1945. Both nations started in the same place. Rubble. Total destruction. Zero. Japan's recovery wasn't luck. Between 1955 and 1973, the economy grew at 10% a year. 10%. The Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, picked the winners. They told banks where to lend. They built Toyota, Sony, Honda from nothing. By 1968, Japan had overtaken West Germany in GNP. The world had never seen anything like it. Germany's path looked different, but ran on the same engine. Ludwig Erhard's Wirtschaftswunder. Strong unions, strong exports, cheap energy. The car industry became the backbone. By the 2000s, Germany was Europe's engine, and everyone believed it. But both miracles shared one fatal flaw. They required something their architects couldn't guarantee forever, a growing young workforce feeding an export machine that never stopped expanding. The miracle was the workforce, and the workforce was about to disappear. Keep that in mind, because every disaster that follows traces back to this one fact. Now here's where the villains enter. September 22, 1985, the Plaza Hotel, New York City. Japan's finance minister Noboru Takeshita and Bank of Japan governor Satoshi Sumita sit down with U.S. Treasury Secretary James Baker. 5 nations agree to weaken the dollar. The yen surges from 236 to 120. Japan's export machine starts choking. The Ministry of Finance panics. Their solution? Slash interest rates. Flood the economy with cheap money. They didn't know it yet, but they just lit the fuse on the biggest asset bubble in human history. 18 years later, Germany makes its own deal with the devil. 2003, Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder stands at the Bundestag podium and announces Agenda 2010. Germany is the sick man of Europe. His fix? The Hartz reforms. Slash unemployment benefits. Create a massive low-wage sector. Mini-jobs. 538 euros a month. No social security. The unemployment rate dropped. Headlines celebrated. Poverty soared. And a future chancellor named Angela Merkel took very careful notes. Both miracles looked unstoppable, but the men who built them had already made the one mistake that would destroy everything. Here's what nobody tells you about economic miracles. They're not designed to last. They're designed to grow. And when you build an entire economy around exporting more every single year, with fewer workers every single year, there's only one possible outcome. Japan discovered this in 1990. Germany is discovering it right now. But the real crime isn't the collapse. It's what the leaders did instead of fixing it. Japan got there first, and what its leaders did next would destroy a generation. After the Plaza Accord, the Bank of Japan slashed interest rates to keep the export machine running. Money flooded into real estate and stocks. The bubble inflated so fast that at its peak, the grounds of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo were theoretically worth more than all the real estate in California. Let that sink in. A single property in central Tokyo worth more than the entire Golden State. Then 1990 hit. The bubble burst. And here's where the crime escalates. Instead of restructuring, instead of letting zombie companies die and rebuilding from the ground up, the Ministry of Finance kept them alive, propped them up with public money, protected the banks that caused the crisis. The lost decade began. Then it became the lost decades, plural. By 1997, real wages in Japan peaked and started a decline that has never reversed, down 10 to 13% and counting. No other developed nation on earth has seen anything like it. An entire generation of Japanese workers got progressively poorer every single year for nearly 3 decades. That's not a recession, that's a robbery in slow motion. And the demographic bomb was already ticking. Remember the fatal flaw? The miracle needed a growing workforce? Japan's working-age population peaked in the early 1990s at 70%. Today, it's 59%, the lowest in the G7. Young people can't afford to marry. Corporate culture punishes women who have children. The fertility rate collapsed to 1.15 in 2024. Only 686,061 babies born, the lowest since records began in 1899. And here's the part that should terrify every economist on Earth. This is happening 15 years faster than anyone predicted. Now, you might think Germany, watching all of this from across the world, would learn something. You'd be wrong. Schroeder's Hartz reforms worked, if your definition of working is dropping unemployment while creating a permanent underclass. 22% of German workers now earn low wages. 5 million people trapped in mini-jobs. No benefits, no path out, no future. Then Angela Merkel arrives. 16 years of managed decline disguised as stability. On energy, she opens Nord Stream 1 with Dmitry Medvedev in 2011. After Russia annexes Crimea in 2014, Germany doesn't pull back, it doubles down. Russian gas climbs to 55% of Germany's gas imports. Merkel built Germany's industrial base on a pipeline controlled by Vladimir Putin. On innovation, while China builds BYD and floods the world with electric vehicles, Germany builds more diesel engines. Germany spends $132 billion on R&D. Japan spends $186 billion. Neither produces unicorns. The money goes in. Innovation doesn't come out. Both countries ran the same play: pour cash into legacy systems and pray for a different result. Japan spent 30 years in this trap. Surely Germany, watching from Europe, would learn from the mistake, right? In 2023, something happened that perfectly captures the absurdity. Germany overtook Japan to become the world's third-largest economy. Headlines celebrated, pundits cheered. But here's the punchline: Germany didn't grow. Japan's currency collapsed so badly that Japan shrank in dollar terms. Germany was celebrating a promotion earned by someone else's demotion. And within a year, Germany was in recession too, because the disease that killed Japan's economy was already inside Germany's. Both economies are structurally addicted to selling things to the rest of the world. Germany's exports equal roughly 40% of GDP. Japan built its entire post-war identity around manufacturing dominance, and that works until your customers stop buying. China slows down, orders dry up. Germany's industrial production in 2024, only 90% of 2015 levels. Manufacturing isn't in a slump, it's in structural decline. And for every factory worker watching the orders drop, that means one thing. The paycheck that fed your family is shrinking, and nobody in Berlin has a plan to replace it. Now look at the demographics. Japan's population peaked at 128 million in 2008. Today, it's 124 million. By 2065, it's projected to hit 92 million. That's 36 million people gone. The country's natural population decline hit a record 919,000 in 2024 alone. By 2040, Japan will be short 11 million workers. 11 million. And for young Japanese couples, that 11 million gap isn't abstract. It means you're working longer hours for less money in a country that's literally disappearing around you. You can't afford a house. You can't afford a child. You can't afford a future. The system your grandparents built is consuming you and calling it prosperity. Germany is walking the same path. 22% of the population is over 65, projected to hit 30% by 2060. The working age population is declining at the same pace Japan's did a decade ago. Both countries tried to fix it. Both failed. Japan threw $23 billion at the birth rate, subsidies, childcare programs, public campaigns. Births kept falling. Germany imported workers, but into mini-jobs, not careers. Neither solved the fundamental problem. Young people can't afford to have families in economies designed to extract maximum productivity at minimum cost. The system was never built for the people inside it. It was built to export. So what did the leaders do? The same thing leaders always do when the engine breaks. They printed money and hoped. Japan's playbook. Don't restructure, print money. Keep zombie firms alive. Haruhiko Kuroda's Bank of Japan ballooned its balance sheet to $4.9 trillion, larger than Japan's entire GDP. 30 years of stagnation, and the only answer was more of the same medicine that caused it. And for Japanese savers, your yen buys less every year. Your wages are down. Your central bank owns more of the economy than you do. That's not monetary policy. That's a hostage situation. Germany's playbook. Don't restructure, subsidize energy, protect legacy industries, and watch the factories leave anyway. BASF, Germany's crown jewel chemical company, shut down plants in Ludwigshafen, then invested $8.7 billion in a brand new mega plant in Zhanjiang, China. The factories aren't dying, they're emigrating, and they're taking the jobs with them. VW slashed 35,000 jobs, not in some distant restructuring plan, now. And for Ludwigshafen, a city that built its identity around BASF for over a century, $1 billion in cuts at home, $8.7 billion invested in China. Do the math. German workers aren't an asset to protect. They're a cost to eliminate. And then there's the Merkel revelation. Handelsblatt reported that Merkel knew, she knew, Russia intended to weaponize gas supplies to push Nord Stream 2. She concealed it. When Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, the energy model collapsed overnight. Gas prices exploded. Industrial competitiveness evaporated. The foundation she built Germany's economy on turned to sand in a single week. Her response, in retrospect? I have no regrets. The workers in Wolfsburg and Ludwigshafen might feel differently. So both miracles are dying. But who's actually paying the price? Remember Yuto from the beginning? 28 years old, junior analyst, died at his desk on a Tuesday. He wasn't alone. In 2024, 1,304 Japanese workers were officially recognized as death from overwork victims. 89 of them killed themselves. Over 1,000 suffered depression and mental health breakdowns, the first time that number crossed 1,000. The government admits 1 in 5 workers is at risk, and those are only the cases they recognize. Japan's GDP per capita dropped from $44,000, world rank 3, to $34,000. $44,000, world rank 38, in 30 years. An entire generation didn't just stagnate, they got poorer every year for 3 decades. 686,061 babies. That's all Japan produced in 2024. In a country of 124 million, fewer children than any year since 1899. The demographic crisis isn't coming, it already happened, and there is no reversing it. In Germany, Thomas Schaefer, VW's passenger car CEO, said the quiet part out loud. German factories are twice as expensive as the competition, so 35,000 workers pay the price. Wages slashed, benefits stripped, a quarter-century of loyalty rewarded with a pink slip. BASF's message to Ludwigshafen was even blunter. $1 billion in cuts here, $8.7 billion invested in China. That's not restructuring, that's abandonment. German workers are a line item to be deleted. Chinese workers are an investment to be made. Meanwhile, every 5th German worker earns poverty wages. Poverty is at its highest level since reunification. The job miracle that Schroeder promised and Merkel sustained was always built on underpaying the people who made it work. And here's what should make your blood boil. Kuroda retired in 2023. The yen kept falling. His successor inherited a $4.9 trillion balance sheet and a currency at a 37-year low. Kuroda faced zero consequences. Merkel wrote her memoirs, no regrets. Schroeder collects consulting fees from Russian energy companies. None of them lost a thing. The victims don't get memoirs. They get mini-jobs and Karoshi. They get 538 euros a month with no pension. They get a heart attack at 28 in a fluorescent-lit office at 2 a.m. The architects of the collapse walked away rich. The people who built the miracle with their hands, they're the ones left holding the bill. Japan's population will hit 92 million by 2065, down 36 million from its peak. There is no policy that reverses this. Germany just entered its 2nd straight year of contraction. BASF isn't coming back to Ludwigshafen. Those 35,000 VW jobs aren't coming back. Both countries passed the point of no return. They just haven't admitted it yet. But here's the part that should terrify you. Every Western economy is on the same path. Every single one. The United States, the United Kingdom, South Korea, Canada, all of them. Aging populations, export dependencies, innovation stagnation, real wages falling behind inflation. Japan was the canary in the coal mine 30 years ago. Germany is the second warning. The question isn't whether your country will face this. The question is whether anyone will learn from the 2 countries that didn't. South Korea's fertility rate is 0.72, lower than Japan's. China's working-age population is already shrinking. The U.S. has papered over its demographic decline with immigration, and that door is closing fast. The dominoes aren't falling. They're already on the ground. The only question left is who's next. Japan and Germany built the 2 greatest economic miracles in human history. Then they destroyed them using the exact same recipe: export addiction, demographic denial, and leaders who chose their own legacies over the people who built the miracle. If that doesn't make you look at your own country differently, you haven't been paying attention. And if you haven't seen our deep dive into why Britain can't house its own people and how Thatcher's policies created a generation of renters, check it out. Links on screen. Now I want to hear from you. Which country do you think hits the wall next? The US or South Korea? Drop your prediction in the comments.